Were you a big fan, Michael, of ECW when it was out?
So due to my age, it was actually just a hair before my coming into pro wrestling.
Your fandom?
My fandom. I've revisited a lot of it, obviously, but I loved watching it after the fact.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be a fan in real time.
We're in a similar boat, only for the fact that I didn't watch it and didn't care for it. I honestly didn't. At the time, I didn't appreciate ECW at all. And still, even looking back, it's kind of like the Attitude Era. Yes, there's a lot of great things about the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff we don't talk about in the Attitude Era, though, too. Stuff that we don't bring up again because of how bad it was. Yep. And I think the ECW is a little bit like that. Now, that's just me. A lot of people loved ECW, and even more people loved ECW after the fact, especially after it went out of business. And you know, I think that a lot of people love the stars that came from it, but maybe not necessarily love, or I do. I love the stars that came out of it, but not necessarily love the actual show. Obviously, I love the Dudleys. But needless to say, they became massive stars after they left ECW. Same with Taz and many others. But thankful for ECW because of people like Cactus Jack and Stone Cold Steve Austin and many others. Too many to name right now, but some of even that character Stone Cold Steve Austin we may not have had without ECW.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's where my brain was going, is people do not realize that ECW was a very, very, very important stop for Steve Austin on the way to the WWF. He needed that time kind of between when he left WCW and he kind of developed the first kind of run of the Stone Cold character in ECW. And so ECW is responsible for a lot of things, and being able to see it kind of full circle with the documentaries. And then, you know, in recent years, Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech and stuff like that. It's hard to not appreciate the place in history that ECW has.
Man, for the past year, WWE has done a lot in Philadelphia, starting with WrestleMania 41 that you and I were at. They had so many things happening all over Philly during that time. WWE did, not to mention even the other organizations. But then since then, they've done Raw, I think a SmackDown. They've done just most recently, last week was NXT at the 2300 arena, the old ECW arena. To see now that they've really kind of it's not the same place. It was a bingo hall when ECW was in it. If wrestling wasn't there, they were calling, you know, B24. But now that's pretty much all that runs in that building, it seems. I even hear that you can go in and everything's there for you if you want it to be. If you're a guy that just wants to put on a wrestling show, you can call up 2300 arena. They have the lights, they have the ring, they have the stage, they have all that stuff. That's pretty cool that's what it now, the legacy will always be wrestling for that building. And that's kind of cool for that.
Are we getting ready to book a show?
Maybe so. We could. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole at this moment, but I don't know. You could probably run something there and probably do pretty decent just having a show there.
You know, I'm going to sidebar a story real quick. Within the last couple weeks, I arrived to the party late and bought WWE 2K24.
Oh, you did?
For PS5. And the first thing I did is I went to the My GM mode, which allows you to be a GM and book shows and do all this kind of stuff. I rage quit. I wasn't very good at it. It was more than I could handle. So I'll have to revisit that when I recover from the rage. So
let's get that one down first, and then we'll talk about booking a show at 2300.
There you go.
After you get the video game rolling. NXT, huge showing at that arena. It was really kind of cool to see not only them doing something there, but also the stars that they brought back, and even surprises that they brought back. And Bully Ray or Bubba Ray. I guess I have to call him Bubba Ray if he's in WWE or at an ECW arena, right? It's Bubba Ray playing a role in this. Do you think he has a future? He's incredible mind. from what I hear, one of the biggest jerks that you've ever come across. But I think it's only if you, I mean, for some people, it's only if you're a jerk to him first. But I don't know. But his mind in the wrestling world is pretty spot on, and it looks like the WWE, or sounds like that, they take a lot of his advice from just things that he talks about on Busted Open. You kind of see some little hints of that implemented here, there, and other places. But WrestleMania 41 comes out to be a ref. Since then, he's come back a few times for a couple of things. Now, actually in the ring at NXT, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think probably it's more up to him. I mean, he's connected, but I think in this role that he's in with Busted Open, he has the ability to not take sides right now.
Right.
And you can't go be a producer and then turn around and talk a bunch of crap on Busted Open if something doesn't go well. So honestly, it's probably more up to him in terms of what is he happy doing? Is he happy being kind of the unbiased opinion of the wrestling world, or does he want to be hands-on with booking stuff with new talent and NXT and this, that, and whatever? I think it just depends on what he wants to do.
You know, they were up head to head because they moved, election being on Tuesday, had NXT moved to Wednesday, and having to be on the same night as AEW. Very smart of them to book a classic arena like this and do like a one-off show that was still in their storylines, but included all of these legends from ECW in the original ECW arena, led to them beating AEW on AEW's night. And I'm not sure that's the same accomplishment that could have been said, you know, say a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I mean, beating them on their night would have been a bigger deal when they were doing much better. Now, I think that rating was probably pretty much what it was going to be, regardless if there was another show on or not. But to have NXT win on that night is a big deal, I know, for them too. And recently I heard it just a couple of days ago in the car, listening to Busted Open, is that I think that Sean Ross Sapp made some comment or in one of his posts. Now, I'm not quoting him because I didn't read it. I just heard them talking about it. But it had to do with AEW not really caring about ratings inside the company. They just don't really care about ratings. If you don't care about ratings, what do you use as a measuring stick to know whether you're doing well or not?
That's tough, because you and I, when the record button's off, have had extensive conversations about ratings and what they mean, and how it's not super accurate anymore. And so, I mean, maybe AEW is seeing engagement on their social platforms and playbacks and different things like that, where they feel like they've got enough momentum. It's bizarre to think that you would completely omit ratings when your entire company is funded by the concept of television advertising.
Exactly.
So it's a little bit of a bizarre thing. I think some of it is just kind of writing off the competition thing because they know they can't hang. You know, they're doing their own thing. I think cool, more power to it. The part that I struggle is that, you know, if you design a bunch of art with the intention to open an art gallery and nobody shows up, was the art good?
I think I get it. You know, I find it living in the same world as the person who says size doesn't matter. It's usually the guy who has small ratings.
Yeah. Or kind of like rich people saying, money doesn't make
money doesn't matter. That's right. Of course it doesn't matter when you have all the money in the world. Absolutely. One of my favorite times of the year is coming up, and that's Survivor Series, Saturday after Thanksgiving. Now, this is where, I mean, a lot of memorable moments. We met the gobbledygooker at this event. It was, and we also were introduced to the Undertaker as well. But the Survivor Series pay-per-view or PLE now, it traditionally has always just been 4 or 5 guys against 4 or 5 other guys, create teams to see who's surviving this whole thing. Now, with the storyline that we talked about last week with the Bloodline, last year it meant something. This year it means something. And then you add in War Games, Cody's dad, the one coming up with it. Cody, how is Cody not in, right now, at least, not in this match?
Well, there's a lot of things to figure out.
There's a lot of time too.
What is it? The end
couple
of
weeks.
couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 30th. Yeah. So
I was a little concerned at first that we were rushing to the War Games storyline. I think with a couple more weeks, I think, oh, there's that yawn that always sneaks in.
it creeps in every once in a while, no matter what time of day we do this. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I thought initially they were rushing it. I don't think that's the case so much anymore. Because I think we got a few weeks to settle in. But in terms of Cody, I think the beautiful thing about where we're at in WWE right now is it doesn't matter who you put in that slot on the team. It has storyline implications.
Yeah.
If it's Cody and Roman. You've got some Kevin Owens shenanigans in there with Jay and Sammy. Yeah. And you've got Drew McIntyre, you've got Seth Rollins, you've got everybody could create an interesting little thing, especially when everybody's gone up against Roman at some point. So I think where we're headed is going to be a cool direction. It would make sense if it was Cody just because of the high profile status and it keeps him out of a title match, obviously at Survivor Series.
Right.
So I would think Cody's going to be that guy. We don't know yet, but I think it's headed in a good direction.
We have 4-on-4 already. So if Cody is, that means other side's going to get something. Could that be Cody and The Rock? We'll have to wait and see. But I do like that Sammy is now back again, part of the OG bloodline, at least after Monday. And
we know there's more cousins out there. So
oh my gosh, man, if we could share our text on here. We talked about it last week on the show, but then it continued because a couple people did something and another bloodline member was created. And another member that has been popping around some other indies is now officially signed with WWE. I don't know if it was immediate or if it was something that happened recently.
Making these guys to order or something.
Something like that. We're getting close to the holidays. You a fan of the Santa Clauses?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Santa Claus 2, when he goes into the thing, it makes him look very plastic, and then you can make as many of whatever you want. I think that's what they do with the bloodline.
Yeah,
they take them up there to the North Pole and do that. Yeah. On the same line, now listen, the first WrestleMania, that show started at 1 p.m. in the afternoon and ended at 3:30. That was when pay-per-views were on Sunday. Just off the top of your head, thoughts on PLEs going back to Sunday, but let's move them to the afternoon. What do you think about that?
There's catch-22 for everything. If it was Sunday and the afternoon, that's a winning combination.
It's pretty cool. I think so too.
I would imagine it's hard for logistics getting in and out of the arena, doing afternoon shows and stuff like that.
True.
I would imagine that's probably why they don't do it. But if you're going to spread out your stuff to international, more international shows, PLE, stuff like that, it would be cool if you did all of your American ones in the afternoon, so it would reflect properly all directions.
Yeah.
It would definitely be cool. I don't know if they'll do it or not. But.
Well, because I think about this, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Now, this is just me being selfish, and I don't know how many other people are affected by this, but Saturday afternoon right after Thanksgiving, that Saturday is like it is right now. But they're even bigger college football games. Yeah. A lot of rivalries. Even I think there may be I may be wrong on this. I think there might be some championship games that weekend for different conferences and things like that. I may be wrong on that. That may just be the end of the season there, the weekend after Thanksgiving. But man, those are big ones. Like here in this part of the world, they get the first time, I think in 15 or 20 years, Texas versus Texas A&M. And that game is in the afternoon. That's what everybody in Texas pretty much is going to be watching that day. And then, they'll have to, if they're wrestling fans as well, they will click over to that afterwards or watch it at a later time, maybe on Sunday afternoon, just to stay away from social media when it comes to wrestling. I just wonder if they've ever thought about that. I'm sure they take a lot of things into consideration. Now, you mentioned that getting into the arena, in and out of the arena, may be a bigger deal now. The production now was way bigger than what it was for WrestleMania 1. And so I can imagine that it is a much bigger deal now.
Yeah. But honestly though, they're running smaller stages and everything. If it's a standard PLE, they may run a smaller, but if it's going to be a bigger venue, there's no telling. But I just had something else I was going to say. But honestly, like right now, they can probably get in and out of a space in one day. They can come in at 6-8 o'clock in the morning, load in, get all set up, and then be gone and tore down, by late that night. So when you're adding another day of, I'm slipping into my GM mode now, but if I'm paying for the arena for one day instead of 2 days, whatever.
I didn't put this in our notes to chat about before we wrap up, though. We got on SmackDown, we've got the introduction of the women's U.S. title. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if we get a women's Intercontinental title over on Raw.
That would be cool. Yeah. The tough part about where we're at right now is, even though we've got a lot of TV, you have to be careful not to have too many titles.
I agree.
Because it doesn't matter that they're different genders, different weight classes, whatever. The mere presence of that many titles cheapens and degrades the grandeur of a title. So it's already sketchy enough. You've got 2 world champions, but the better one is the WWE one, but that one's the world. And how does that all work? Because WWE is within the world and the world is bigger, but I don't. Either way, if you have too many titles, it cheapens it. So I think the women need the mid-card title, because as someone, I read this online, I can't quote them, but we constantly see women thrown into these high-profile feuds, into title pictures, without any run-up to that. So having a mid-card title, being able to establish some stars that way, it's only going to help the women's division as long as they stay on top of it.
Yeah.
We see stuff like the women's tag titles that have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit.
And it's really just now, and maybe one other time, that they've felt like they've actually meant anything.
Yeah. And right now it seems like it's in a good pocket with Jade and Bianca. But as long as we continue to treat it with respect and treat it like it's something to be chased, then we'll be in good shape.
I agree with that for the most part, unless that they have a really good story. I didn't really think a lot of the Intercontinental title, in some points back in the day, but man, you go back to, we just mentioned WrestleMania 1, but how about WrestleMania 3? The Intercontinental title stole the show.
Yep.
At WrestleMania 3. That was a massive match. And sometimes
that was Razor and Shawn, right?
Not at WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 3 was Macho and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and those, just a classic, and that was not what drew the people in, but man, that match, that a lot. You remember the Slam with Hogan, and you remember that full match.
Yep.
From the Intercontinental title, and that's, so you have a great story. It's cool to have those titles. I think it'll be interesting. Maybe we cap it here. Let's not delve into too much if that's what we're doing, and maybe they wait a year before they do a women's Intercontinental title. I'd be okay with that too. And
there's something to be said about flooding the market too. It probably wouldn't be good for either title if you debuted them at the same time.
Agreed.
And it gives, even if it's a couple weeks from now, it gives Adam Pearce the ability to go, oh yeah, well, how about a women's Intercontinental title? And so
make it his idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been fun hanging out with you guys. Let us know what you think about anything we talked about, especially the titles. Would you like to see a women's Intercontinental title over on Raw after seeing a women's U.S. title introduced on SmackDown? Do we need more? Do we need less? Should we just have, we could dive into this in so many ways. That we really don't have one world champion. We have a world and we have a undisputed, right? So sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't, but let us know what you guys think. And if you are watching right now, make sure you hit subscribe and like this video. We appreciate it. It didn't cost you anything. It helps us a lot. Appreciate you guys being here. Michael, always good to talk to you, bud.
Same.